Welcome. So now we're going to solve two problems involving medians. Right? And these are going to be algebraic expressions that we're going to be solving for x, and then we're going to be finding the length of each of the segments. In this first case, we're going to find the length of BG and DG. So to set this problem up, we have to figure out the relationship between the two segments. And I could either use the relationship for BG to DG, or I could use the relationship from DG to BG. Either one would solve the problem, but one might be a little easier of an equation than the other. Sometimes it won't matter. Sometimes it'll be pretty much the same and it won't matter which one we solve, but one might be easier. So let's go ahead, let's figure out the relationship between BG to DG and then the other way around, DG to BG. All right, so BG is right here, and it is the it goes from the centroid to the vertex. And DG is right here. That goes from the midpoint, my equal sign, there we go, midpoint to the centroid. Actually, I'll put centroid to midpoint. All right, so remember the median is divided into thirds. From the centroid to the midpoint is 1/3, and from the centroid to the vertex is 2/3. Right, so 2/3 is twice as much as 1/3. Right, so BG is going to be twice DG. Or the other way around, DG is going to be half of BG. So let's go ahead and we'll write that in. So BG is 2 times DG, right? It takes 2 DGs to equal 1 BG. Right? You can see that segment is longer. And these are the one time where the problems are actually drawn to scale, because there's no other way to draw the medians except by drawing the medians, and the medians are divided such that that centroid to vertex is 2/3 and that centroid to midpoint is 1/3, and 2/3 definitely looks twice as big as 1/3. So DG is half of BG. All right, so we can use either one. Let's take a look at the equation. Let's replace the BG with the 4x plus 5 and the DG with the 3x and see which one looks a little easier to solve. And we'll solve that one. So 4x plus 5 is 2 times 3x, or 3x is 1/2 4x plus 5. All right, so if I have to distribute a 1/2 in the second case. If all of our values were even, it probably wouldn't make a difference which one we solved. But if we multiply 5 by 1/2, we are going to have to deal with a fraction. Right? And maybe that's not quite as easy to solve as just having integer values. So if we take a look at the two equations, it seems, looking at them, that this equation is a little easier. You're going to get the same answer regardless of which one you use. Right? But one of them looks a little easier. All right? And so let's solve that one. So we have 4x plus 5 equals 6x, and then subtract 4x from both sides. So 5 is equal to 2x, and then divide by 2, 5/2 is x. Right? And we'd actually get the same thing. And actually it isn't that much harder because half of 4x is 2x. And when we subtract the 2x from the 3x, we would just get x equals 5/2. I don't know. But just initially looking at the two equations, this one looks just a little easier. I'll go ahead and solve the other one. You can just put the 1 in your notes. Actually, put both equations. So put everything I have up here in your notes. And now I'm just going to show you how to solve the other equation. And you don't have to put that one in your notes unless you want to. So if I distribute the 1/2, half of 4x is 2x, half of 5 is 5/2, or 2.5. And then you'd subtract 2x from both sides. So x equals 5/2. So in this case, actually, that one wasn't any harder than the other one, really. It took the same number of steps. I just wrote a little bigger on one side. But looking at it, it seems that the first equation might be a little easier. If we had more steps to do in this equation, then it might have made more of a difference. Let's take a look at the second problem. And again, let's find the relationship. Oh, well, we forgot to do something. We forgot to find the length of each segment. All right, so you don't have to put this part in your notes. I'm just going to erase this part. But you do need to put this part in your notes, and that is the length of each segment. So we just got to plug in the 5/2. So BG is 4. I'm going to put a 1 there just because I think it makes it easier to multiply. 4 times 5/2 plus 5. All right, so when you're multiplying, I can either multiply numerator by numerator, denominator by denominator, and then reduce, or I can cross reduce when I'm multiplying. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. I could reduce those. So 2 times 5 would be 10. Plus 5 is 15. And then DG would be 3. I'll just put a 1 over there. Times 5/2. And that's not going to reduce. That's just 15/2. And yes, 15/2 is half of 15. All right, so now we're done with this problem. Let's go ahead and do the next problem. And I'm probably not going to solve the next one two ways. All right, so EG and EC. All right, so let's take a look. EG is right here. EG is the midpoint to the centroid. And EC is right here. It's the whole median. All right, so let's write this both ways, and then we'll see which equation looks easier. All right, so we're going to write it first from EG's perspective. So EG is how much of EC? Or from EC's perspective, EC is how much of EG. All right, so from the midpoint to the centroid is 1/3 of the median. Which means, conversely, the median is 3 times the length of the segment from the midpoint to the centroid. Right? And that makes pretty much sense, right? So if this is 1, let's call that 1, then GC would be 2, right? It's twice as much. So from E to G, let's just call that 1. Then from G to C, that would be twice as much. That's 2, which means that the whole thing would have to be 3 times as much, because 3 is 3 times as much as 1. Right? So these segments are in essentially broken into thirds. Right? From the midpoint to the centroid is 1/3. From the centroid to the vertex is 2/3. 2/3 is twice 1/3, and the whole thing is 3 times 1/3. Right? Because you'd have to multiply 1/3 by 3 to get the whole thing. Right? Equals 1 median. So it's 3 times as much. All right. I think I know which one's going to look easier, but let's go ahead and write it down. Actually, it's not going to make much difference here either. So, but I'm only going to solve one of them. 2x minus 8 equals 1/3 times 3x plus 3. Now, this one I would have thought would be the harder one because you'd have to distribute the 1/3. But since 3x and 3 are both divisible by 3, that's really not that bad. And the other equation would be 2x minus 8 equals 3 times, wait, did I put it backwards? Oh, sorry. You see 3x plus 3 equals 3 times 2x minus 8. So either one is really about the same because we had a nice 1/3 to distribute over a 3x and a 3. So it really doesn't make which difference we solve. I'll go ahead, I guess, and solve this one because usually if the numbers aren't so friendly, that one is probably the easier one to solve. In this case, it's not going to make a difference. 3x plus 3 equals, so 3 times 2x is 6x, 3 times 8 is 24, and then I just need to get the numbers on one side, the x's on the other. So subtract 3x, so 3 is equal to 3x minus 24, add 24, so 27 is 3x, and divide by 3, and x is 9. So we'll go ahead and find the segments, and you'd get the same answer if you use the other equation. Right? But let's go ahead and find the lengths of the segments. So EG is 2 times 9 minus 8. So 18 minus 8 is 10. And EC is 3 times 9 plus 3. 3 times 9 is 27, plus 3 is 30. Right? 3 times as much. EC is 3 times as much as EG. And that's the end of this video. So thanks for watching. I hope you've learned a little bit more about finding measures of the segments that create the median. And in this case, we solved algebraic equations to find the value of x and the length of the median and the segments. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.